Yep. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Just give me a minute. Okay. So, good morning, guys. So, let's start our today's discussion. Hope you're able to hear me and hope you're able to see my screen as well. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So, let me open PowerPoint one. Yeah. Okay. So today, in our last two sessions, we have discussed about cloud functions and we have discussed about PubSub, right? Google Cloud PubSub. So how we can utilize that PubSub, all these things we have seen, right? So today we are going to see about one more new service called Google Cloud GCP workflows. Okay, this is also very important for a typical data engineer in Google Cloud Platform, and we have already seen the high level introduction to workflow. So let us recap it once again. Okay, and then we will try to dig deeper into this workflows. Okay, so first of all we need to understand, right, so in real time how things will happen, right? So in real world projects, there won't be any kind of a manual work, be very clear. Okay, so whatever the data pipeline you are developing, whatever the queries that you are writing, whatever the processing logic you are developing, that is a one time activity. Be very clear. Okay, you develop, you test, and you deploy. Okay, once you deployed, right, in the process of deployment, you have to make sure it is automated. Okay, it is automated. So when you want to make a deployment automated, so what you need to do, you need an orchestration tool. The reason being, in your data pipeline you will be having a lot of components that needs to be connected with each other. Okay, that needs to be connected with each other. So now let us take an example use case, guys. Okay, let us take an example use case. So the ingest is happening to your GCP project. Okay, ingest. And this ingest typically, what happens, right? So in real time, the ingest will be continuously happening to GCS, and the processing logics are batch. Okay, so the processing logics are batch. Let us take an example. This ingest pipeline is running for every 1 hour. Okay, now every 1 hour it is placing around 100 GB of data in GCP. Okay, in multiple tables. Be very clear, in multiple tables. Okay, you have 10 different tables. Let us take an example. 10 tables. Okay, now once it got ingested data into GCS, you have to develop your processing pipeline and invoke your pipeline automatically, right? Invoke your pipeline automatically. Guys, just give me a minute. I'm just getting some important call. Just give me a minute. Okay, so okay, so the ingest is a continuous process. Okay, so that will continuously happen, and then it will update the control tables. Once the ingest is completed for a successful table, it will update the control tables. That is clear, right? So In GCP, we may need to, in real-time projects, what we'll do, we integrate multiple different services, right? Because data engineering is the only technology where you'll experience different flavors of services, right? So you'll integrate a lot of different technologies in data engineering. So if you take the processing component, right? So processing component itself, let us take an example. Here I have cloud function one. Okay, I have one cloud function that needs to be triggered, right? And then similarly, I have one data proc job. Okay, I have one data proc job. After the cloud function execution, okay, based on the cloud function inputs or based on the cloud function results, I want to trigger my data proc job one. Okay, now once this data proc job is completed, then I want to trigger my cloud function 2. I want to trigger my cloud function 2. This cloud function 2 will use this data proc job 1 results and derive some logics and then trigger 5 more data proc jobs here parallelly. Well, it's 3 in our case. Okay, so okay, now once these data proc jobs got successfully completed, then what we need to do, we need to trigger a big query stored proc. So this data proc jobs has loaded the data into stage tables, and then there will be multiple big BQ stored procs that needs to be triggered. Stored procs. So these stored procs are insert overwrite or insert into or merge queries. Okay. So once the data processing has been successfully completed, what we do, we process the we take that processed data and we do the SCD operations on top of the target tables. Okay. At this moment, as what is SCD? No, we have already discussed, right? So you need to be prepared on it. So we have triggered the BigQuery stored procs. Now this BigQuery stored procs will load the data into the target tables. Okay, now this data, once this entire pipeline got successfully completed, then we'll see the data in the BigQuery target tables. Okay, so that is a pipeline that we need to develop. Okay, now you developed this cloud function 1, DP1, cloud function 2 also you developed, and then data proc job 1, 2, 3 also you developed, and then you parameterized these things, and then you developed stored process. Now how you will connect and then generate this sequence, that is very important in a data engineering pipeline, right? So when you want to do pipelining, be very clear. When you want to do pipelining, you need a orchestration tool. We call the tool as orchestration, data pipeline orchestration. This orchestration tool will give you flexibility to do this arrangement. Be very clear. So that is where your workflow will fit in. Your workflow is a orchestration, serverless orchestration service in Google Cloud. Okay, your workflow is a serverless orchestration service in GCP. You can do this kind of arrangement in workflow, and then you can trigger this workflow based on a pub/sub event, pub/sub message, or a cloud scheduler. Okay, now Here cloud scheduler will be there. You will schedule, excuse, yeah. So you scheduled it every you scheduled it every day at 6 a.m. Okay. Now what will happen, as and when you schedule it, your cloud scheduler, in your cloud scheduler, you have an option to select pub sub destination, right? So pub sub, and in your workflow you have an option to add pub sub trigger, right? So what will happen, at end of the day, your scheduler will automatically trigger your pub sub, right? And it will ingest the message to the topic, and then your pub sub will trigger this workflow, right? So what will happen, daily your workflow pipeline that you have developed will be automatically triggered. There is no manual intervention. That is something that you need to understand. Okay, there is no manual intervention. So as and when the time got uh, arrived, that scheduled time got arrived, immediately this cloud scheduler will send the pub/sub message to the topic, and this workflow is enabled with pub/sub trigger to the respective topic, so that it will automatically trigger this workflow. Okay, in the workflow, what we have a cloud function first. So what it will do, it will go and check the audit table, and then check the ingestion status of that particular previous day, and then it will try to trigger the data proc job one. Okay, and it returns a flag whether the ingestion status for this particular day or before day is successful or not. Okay, if the ingestion status is successful for the previous day, then immediately it will trigger the data proc job one, right? So then what will happen, once this data proc job one got successfully completed, then we will try to trigger the cloud function 2. Okay, this cloud function 2, what it will do, it will go to data proc job 1 results wherever we have written that results. Let us take an example, it is GCS or BigQuery. Okay, now it will go to that results, and then it will read the results and derive some logics out of it, and then immediately, based on the output data proc job 1 got generated, it will segregate the data and classify it and run 3 different jobs parallelly. Okay, so once everything got completed, at the end, call the BigQuery stored procs, so that this entire results will be merged with the target tables. So this is a end-to-end pipeline, guys. So you need to understand this pipeline, and you need to take a use case and build this pipeline in workflow. That is the expectation. Okay. So before going to that, so let us quickly understand. Let us quickly understand. One second. Okay, so let us quickly understand where is the workflow service in Google Cloud Platform and how to open it, and all these things we will see. Okay, so we will try to understand, and we will try to create a sample workflow, and then we will try to understand how we will give the trigger to workflow. Okay, so I'm just trying to open my Google Cloud. Okay, so this is my project, and you just need to type workflow here. Okay, here if you see workflows, right? So just click on the workflows. This is the Google Cloud Workflows UI. Okay, this is a Google Cloud Workflows UI, and in here, if you go and see, you have already a workflow that got created. Okay, and you still can create a new workflow. Okay, you can create the workflow from the UI, and also you can create the workflow from the notebook. Okay, you can create the workflow from the notebook. So meanwhile, I will try to start my Vertex AI notebook. Okay, so here if you see, I have my workflow UI. Okay, now in here you can simply, but we will first see how to create a workflow from the user interface. Okay, let's start it. So I just clicked on my create workflow. Just 1 minute, guys. So let me. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah. So let's open the official documentation for our workflows, guys. So this is your reference. You can try to go through this, step by step. Okay. So now let us understand how to create a workflow from the UI. So here, if you see here, workflow name. Let us say I am just taking it as a test. Okay, and the region you will give, description you will give, and service account, which service account you want to use it for this workflow, right? So I'm using the generic service account. Okay, and then here, if you see, you have encryption mechanisms, and then you'll see environmental variables. If you want to pass some variables to your workflow from the outside, you can create those variables here. Okay, so constants, I can say. Okay, so if you want to pass a constant variables, you can create or add variables here, and you can set up a trigger to your workflow. See here, you can set up a trigger to your workflow. So when you see triggers, you have cloud scheduler and you have event arc. Okay, now what we'll do, we'll just take event arc. Event arc meaning the pub sub trigger. Okay, event arc, event based trigger. Now here, if you see, I'm just trying to specify. Okay, pub sub trigger, so I'm just specifying the trigger name. Okay, and then here in the event provider, so who will provide the event? Pub sub will provide the event. And event type, so as and when the message got published, so this is the option that we need to select. So you can also select when the topic is created, when deleted the topic, when list the topic, all these things. But as and when a message got arrived into the topic, then our workflow should trigger. So that is the meaning for this event type. Okay. Now immediately select a cloud pub sub topic. If you see here, so you have these topics in your pub sub, and which topic you want to use it as a trigger, right? So you just need to select the topic. Okay, so now save the trigger. So you enabled a trigger, event based trigger to your workflow. So the next part is the code, right? So this is something that you need to understand very, very clearly. Okay, so in workflows, we develop the code in YAML files. Okay, we develop the code in YAML files. People who are not people who did not know YAML files. YAML files are configuration files in Kubernetes or Dockers will see this or will experience this kind of files. Okay, so these files will follow kind of a notation or a syntax notation. Okay, so we just need to follow that syntax, but we can define our own logics in these files. Okay, now here, let us understand the structure of this file, right? So here, if you see main, okay, so main should be there in your workflows YAML, okay, and then params. So the input, the message, right? So whatever the topic, when the message arrives into the topic, immediately your workflow will be triggered, and to the workflow you can extract the message that got published into the topic. Okay, and then steps. So this is a very key concept, guys. So once you got main, params, and then steps, these are the three mandate things that you need to follow. Okay, so steps meaning each and every task in your workflow is a step. Be very, very clear. Okay, so here, calling a cloud function one is one step, and then checking the status of the cloud function variable is one step. Okay, and then apply the condition on that status variable returned, and call data proc job. This is another step. So likewise, you define steps in workflow. Be very, very clear. Each and every sub task that you are going to develop is a step. Okay, so here if you see under steps, I have my first step as a check search term input. Okay, check search term input. Okay, now here I have a switch condition, so I this is how I can apply the condition, right? So condition, what is that condition? Search term dollar search term, so search term in input. Okay, in input. So if it, I mean the search string, I mean this workflow actually if you see you can search your variable or your location constraint or your region in the inputted message. That's the importance here. Okay, you can simply avoid all these logics but understand the structure. Okay, so here I applied a switch condition. Okay, and one more thing is how we will create the variables in workflow, right? So we can still create the variables in workflow. Assign, so is the keyword here. If you see, you have a lot of documentation available for it. So the first thing is main function, how to start your workflow, and the second is steps. Okay, and then third is calls is very important, guys, because you will use these calls to do the call for dataproc or BigQuery or your cloud function or your pub sub. You can communicate to any of the service in GCP using these calls only. Okay, so I will go step by step and I will explain what is the importance of each and every headline here. Okay, then you will come to know how we can use the workflows better. Okay, so let us quickly understand the main function here. If you see, main will start, and params is something that you will see, and then steps. Okay, this is the structure that you need to follow for your workflow YAML file. Okay, main, params, and then steps. Okay, once you have followed this syntax, then you may need to declare the variables. Okay, you may need to declare the variables in your workflow, right? That variables may be coming from outside, or you are deriving those variables explicitly, so you can do anything, right? So here if you see, you can create your variables by simply using the assign method. See here, by simply using the assign method. So if you want to create your variables, or if you want to assign your variables, or if you want to for example, you ran a cloud function and that cloud function has returned some value, right? And then that returned value, you want to assign it to a workflow variable, right? So in that kind of a scenarios, you'll use this assign, variables assign. Okay, now we are clear. Main, params is the input to your workflow. Okay, and main is a starting point to your workflow, and then steps is a collection of your tasks. Okay, collection of your tasks, and then inside each step you can declare your logic. Okay, and before going, I mean after the steps, you, if you want to declare any kind of a variables, or in between if you want to declare any variables in workflow, this is how you can declare. Okay, similarly in like a programming language, right? So you have data types, functions, operators, everything is there in workflow as well. So but we don't go that much deeper, but I will suggest you to go and try to explore this, because you know Python, right? So this is more or less similar. Okay, so you just need to explore these things, how, what are all the things that are there, and what are all the things that are supported by workflow, right? And then the next thing that we need to understand is the conditions. Okay, the conditions, and then calls, right? So this is very important. So let us see the conditions and calls, and then we will see iteration. Okay, we'll see iteration. and then we will see sub workflows. Okay, sub workflows. That is something that we will see. Okay, okay. So now here, okay. So now here conditions, right? So here, let us understand here. Okay. So see here. So if you want to apply a condition based check, or if you want to control your workflow execution based on a condition, right? For example, if you want to check a condition and then you want to execute a step, okay, based on the condition you want to execute the step, right? So see here, switch is the operator that we will use. Let us take an example. Under this step, I'm checking the condition. Okay, switch condition. So I'll apply the condition here in this, and then if this condition got satisfied, then I'm clearly telling my workflow next step needs to be executed as step B. Okay, and I'm checking one more condition. If this condition satisfies, then I have to execute step C. Then I'm checking condition true, then step C, right? So this is how you need to you need to uh, apply the switch condition. Okay, once all the conditions got completed, then I need to go for step D. So the next keyword will always specify the next step needs to be executed. Okay, so and then let's quickly understand the calls, right? So here if you see, uh, if you want to execute a call function, right? So let's quickly understand how we will use call, right? So if you see, this is a step name. Send message is the step name. Okay, inside that step, what I'm using call. Okay, I'm using call. So call meaning you can do REST API calls. Okay, you can do REST API calls. So that is why we were able to communicate with any of the service by using this workflow. Okay, uh, by using the workflow, you can do REST API calls to any API. So that is where we'll call Cloud Function, we'll call Dataproc, we'll call BigQuery. All are REST APIs only, right? We'll do the REST API call. That's it. Okay, so this call method we'll use more often in workflow. Okay, so here simply http dot post, and then if you see here, I'm calling this URL, and then I'm sending these arguments to that URL, hello world 123. And then here if you see, this is how you will assign the result. Okay, result meaning the output of this call. Okay, the output of this call will be assigned to the variable. Okay, this is how you will uh, create a variable called the message and append the result that came from here to this message or the message variable. Okay, so declaring steps and calling your APIs. Okay, and one more thing. Yes, sub workflows. Yeah, here if you see, you can create your sub workflows. Okay, you can create your sub workflow. Let us take an example. Your workflow is becoming very huge. Okay, and you need to divide it into multiple chunks. Okay, you need to divide it into multiple chunks. So then you can use this concept called sub workflows. Okay, sub workflows. So here if you see, you have a main workflow. Okay, and then in a particular step you are calling your sub workflow. So inside sub workflow it is again the same. You have params, you have steps, right? And here if you see how you are calling your sub workflow, your call function, and then you're sending the arguments and values, right? So this is how you will use the sub workflows concept. Okay. And similarly, if you want to execute your parallel steps, right? In few use cases, we may need to trigger multiple steps parallelly, right? So you can actually call this parallels. You can declare your parallel step. Okay, you can declare your parallel step, and then you can use this kind of a notation. So each and every attribute you can go through this, guys: parallel step name, and then policy, variables, concurrency limit. So you can see the example as well here. If you see, you'll create the branches, and in each branch you will be having multiple steps that needs to be triggered parallelly, right? So this parallel option will trigger your steps in a parallel fashion. So here if you see a parallel step, okay, and then init, okay, this is one step where you have you're assigning the variables, and then you have the parallel step, and then your parallel functionality shade. Okay, so this is your input, user and notification, and branches, right? So get user, get notification. So here if you see, under branches you have get user, and under get user you have steps. That means this is a branch, and this is a, again, under branch you have this step. Okay, and this is again another branch, and you have this step. So what will happen here, whatever are there in your branch level, so those will be executed, the steps will be executed in parallel. Okay, so this is how you will actually create your parallel steps. So let me actually send this URL to you guys. I want you guys to go through this workflows content. This is a very simple tool, guys. Don't worry, you'll get to know very easily. But before that, please refresh your Python skills. Okay, so then only you'll be able to understand these everything, because all the concepts we have already seen in Python, right? So lists, and then declaring the variables, and then conditions, everything we have seen in Python, right? But here the syntax will difference, and then we have seen functions and calling the functions from different class. Okay, so everything is same. So if you map it, then you'll get to know very easily. Okay, so now let us quickly see one pipeline that I have created. So you just need to click on deploy. Okay. So once you click on deploy, so your workflow pipeline will be deployed. That's it. So you can go to your workflow, and then trigger your workflow manually, or trigger your workflow from your message also. Okay. So now here if you see, I have created a workflow uh, where actually I'm actually see here, this is my simple workflow. Okay, example, I have main, params, and then steps. Okay, it's a very simple one, basic one, guys. And here if you see, I have a step called get message. Okay, and in this message get message step, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to assign the variables. Okay, I'm trying to assign the variables. So table name is a variable that I'm assigning sales data, and the run date is a variable that I'm assigning, which is actually 2024 08 29. Okay, now the next step is get the relevant GCS path locations for this table for this date. Okay, now to derive that, I have a cloud function. Okay, and I'm calling my cloud function here. Just try to observe it very clearly, guys. We are using a call method. Okay, we are using a call method, and we are just doing the request HTTP post. And see here, the URL is your cloud function URL. So if you go into your cloud function, okay, you will see the URL for your cloud function. Okay, you will see the URL for your cloud function, and here I'm passing the table name and run date as arguments to my cloud function, so just click on the cloud function that you have and go to your source. Okay, and in the main.py you'll try to understand how we are actually, see here, as and when you got the request from http from workflow as a http request, then you are simply getting that request json. Okay, and then you're just assigning the run date and then table name variables, sorry, extracting the run date and table name variables from the request json. Okay, and then you're forming your raw gcs path. See here, you're just forming your raw GCS path. It's in Python only, right? You'll be able to understand it. And checking the conditions, few conditions, if the run date is available in the JSON, then only assign the run date. So your request.json will come as a dictionary. Be very, very clear. Okay, your request.get JSON, when you do, what will happen? You'll get the dictionary and understand the trigger for your cloud function. Okay, your cloud function trigger is a http trigger. Okay, that means you can trigger your cloud function via http call. So that is what we are doing here, right? So we are calling your cloud function with two arguments, and these arguments will be sent in a json format to your cloud function, and you are extracting these variables in your cloud function, and you are executing a particular logic in your cloud function, and you are returning some output from your cloud function. So as and when it develops or it triggers the call to your cloud function, the response it will catch in the result. Okay, see here, result colon cloud function response. So cloud function response is a variable that will capture entire result from your cloud function. Okay, now I'm assigning a variable again. If you see the raw path, and in this raw path, I'm calling the variable dot body, because your cloud function response will come in the JSON format, and in the JSON you have a variable called body, and in that body we will get the output. Okay, so that is the reason why we are selecting cloud function response dot body. So dollar $off is a notation in workflow to call the variable value. Okay, to call the variable value. Now, this is my simple workflow. So you can see the visual representation here. First, it will trigger the get message and then get GCS raw path and then get GCS raw path. So, and then return the value. So this is my workflow visual representation. Okay, so now let us quickly see the trigger for my workflow. So what is the trigger for my workflow? So I have a subscription, subscription. So I have created a pub sub trigger. Okay, and it is pointing to the test topic, right? It is pointing to the test topic. So you can simply trigger this workflow by actually pushing a message to the pub sub topic. Okay, by actually pushing a message to the pub sub topic. So automatically this will be triggered by pushing a message to the pub subtopic. So you can see the events also. See here, I have triggered it multiple times, 3 times I have triggered, and then as and when you it triggered, right, it will create the execution ID. Okay, and it will show all the executions of your workflow in here, executions tab. Okay, you just go to your execution ID and then see the execution result, right? So the output, if you see, simply the returned variable from your cloud function, right? So you can learn it pretty easily, guys. This is not a very big concept as such. So the pipelining, right, the orchestration thing. So how to call a cloud function, how to call a data proc job, how to call a BigQuery stored proc. So these are some things that we need to see. Okay, so tomorrow what I will do, I'm working on a end-to-end use case. Okay, I'm working on a end-to-end use case wherein I can create this entire workflow and then I will trigger it by sending a pub sub message, and then you will see the result data in the BigQuery. Okay, so with along with Cloud Scheduler, this is some use case that I'm trying to prepare. Okay, but I'm still seeing some access related issues from different services, because this is in real time what will happen. Our projects will have administrators, GCP administrators, so they will set up this seamless integration between different services, and they will enable all the firewalls, everything. But this is a free version that we are working on, so that is the reason we are facing a lot of access related issues. So I'm resolving them one by one. So meanwhile, I request you to uh, go through this workflow content. Okay, this is very very important. Okay, so if you go through this workflow content, once you got some good understanding, okay, so then we will see that end to end use case. So tomorrow what we will see is, we will try to see how to call a data proc job, how to create the cluster from the workflow. Okay, and then how to execute a big query stored proc from the workflow. Okay, so two things we will see tomorrow. And then on Thursday we will see the end to end execution flow from the workflow. Okay, so tomorrow's concepts are calling a data proc job from the workflow. Today we have seen how to call cloud function from the workflow, right? So I will try to upload this YAML file to the Git repository. Okay, so let us see. I will try to go to source and then copy this. Where is my Git repository? Yeah, this is this one. Okay, let me go here. Yeah. Okay, so here if you see, I will try to upload this in the GW data pipeline. Okay, so where you can, or else I'll try to upload it here only. Okay, because I have add file option, create new file. Okay, and then file contents here. So this is the YAML file. So name of my file is workflow underscore call cf and assign. Okay, so these two topics are covered in this workflow, so you can straight away take. Okay, so here I'll try to edit. Okay, or else you can take this from here. So this is actually the simple workflow to call your cloud functions. Okay, I have created that file here. And what else you need? So you just need to enable your workflow API, guys. So I think I okay, it's okay, no problem. So once you go to your workflow, right, so you can pretty well try to I mean, it will give the suggestion to enable your workflow API. Okay, so no need to worry. So let us quickly understand that part. Okay, so I will send you this URL also. So I want you to go through this workflows. Okay, so let me upload, or else let me send this in the chat. So I request everybody to save it, the URL. Okay, so that's all I have for today, guys. Anybody have any questions? Are you able to understand any questions, guys?
Mm, no.
Are you able to understand the high level importance of your workflow and creating the workflow from the UI? We still can create the workflow from the Vertex AI notebook. I'll tell that concept tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll see how to trigger the data proc from the workflow, how to see how to trigger the BigQuery stored proc from the workflow. So these things we will see tomorrow. Okay, and we will see few more concepts if time permits. We will see few more concepts in tomorrow's session. Okay, so I want you to practice, take the content from this documentation and practice all the examples, understand the errors. Okay, and then try to make yourself comfortable with your workflow. Okay, so this is very important. So the services that you are going to put in your resume, followed by like this: so PubSub, Cloud Functions, Workflow, BigQuery, Dataproc, and GCS. So these are the services that you are going to put in your GCP data engineer resume. Okay, so they will ask you, interviewer will ask you, have you applied loops in workflow? Yes, we applied. Have you done parallel steps execution? Yes, we have done. So you have to practice all these things. Okay, you have to practice all these things. How you triggered data proc job from your workflow? So you need to explain the steps. So how you triggered cloud function from your workflow? You need to explain the steps. So this is how interviewer will tweak the questions for you in workflow. Okay, so basically they will go for from the project use case. So how you declare the variables in workflow, how you passed arguments to your workflow, right? So these are the things that they will ask in a real time project fashion. So definitely we will see all these things by end of our sessions. But I request you to go and practice the workflow as much as you can. Okay, and help each other, post the things in the group, and then try to learn things. Okay, so that's all I have for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining. We'll connect once again tomorrow and then Thursday. So Thursday is our final session because I want to spend some time in workflow because workflow is very important tool. Okay, so I don't want to complete it in a rush. Okay, we'll spend couple of sessions. It's okay, no problem. Okay, even if it is not Thursday, we'll spend till Friday also. I will try to prepare as much as use cases I can. Today we have seen cloud functions trigger. Tomorrow we will see data proc and BigQuery communication, right? And then we will see PubSub communication also, right? So we will try to cover as much as real time cases that we can cover, and then we will jump into the use case. Okay, and then we will jump into the project use case. So that is the plan for me. Okay, so thank you so much for joining. And one more note: people who did not complete the payment, please complete the payment, and people who completed, you can ignore. Okay, so that's one update from me. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. We'll connect again tomorrow.
Take